Hey everybody, James with Love My Pups, My Breeder Supply. So I've been doing these multi-part series. I think it kind of chunks things up a little bit easier to understand. And the other part about it is if I do too long a YouTube video, people dump out on me. So we want to keep the things shorter, 10 minutes or something for each of these little lectures. So today we're going to talk about progesterone levels. Very important stuff, and it pertains to the whole process of breeding a dog, the pregnancy, whelping a dog. It's all related to progesterone levels. So I've done some other videos on this, but I want to do something in a bit more detail. 5-part series. The first one, the one we're doing today, is going to be the whole progesterone graph. What the heck is going on? How do you check it? How do you read it? How do you test for it? Then we're going to talk about progesterone in particular to the breeding process, which is this area of the graph right here. Then to do with the pregnancy, which is this area of the graph right here. And then the whelp, which is this last part of the graph right here. And then finally the next cycle, what goes on after she's had puppies or hasn't had puppies, and we're getting ready for maybe another breeding or another heat cycle. Okay, so let's start talking about progesterone levels. So to get a progesterone level, you need to do a blood test. There is no pee on a stick, stick a wand up the vulva. All of these techniques, I'm not a proponent of any of those at all. They don't work worth a diddly as far as I'm concerned. The only one that gives you a real reliable progesterone test number is you've got to go draw some blood. And in the past, I have talked about a product called, it comes from targetvet.com, targetvet.com, and you can buy 12 tests with 2-day delivery for I think $149 from them, and it's called a target test. And myself and my customers have been using that for many years quite successfully. What you get is you have to draw blood, you have to spin it down, which you can either let it sit on the counter for a few hours, you can use a ceiling fan to spin it down, or you can go take it to the vet or have a centrifuge and spin it on yourself. And then what happens is, when you've got the blood in a vial, then it separates into the blood cells, the red blood cells below, and then this clear fluid above it. And it's this clear fluid, the plasma or the serum, this is what you're going to use for the blood test. So that's what you've got to go collect. And then you put 4 drops of that. You actually, in this test kit, you get a cylinder, and you put the drops, and you have some other chemistry that you have to follow the directions. And then the center of this thing then changes color depending on what her progesterone level is. So the center of this is very blue if she's not ready, to completely white if her progesterone level is above 10. So that test is if you're not going to do anything and do any kind of progesterone test at the vet or have a machine, get the target test, because it will certainly, like I say, I have tons and tons of people using that quite successfully, and I used to use that myself for the longest time. Okay, so what are the other ways that you can find progesterone levels? Well, what I do these days is I have a machine. I sell those on mybreedersupply.com. It's the Fine Care Wonderful machine. It's $9 a test, get results in 50 minutes. I should have bought the machine a long time ago. I've had the machine for the better part of a year. Have not been missing any breedings with it, not getting mixed up with my C-section timing. If you're going to do much of this, go get the machine. It will give you bigger litters. It will save you the heartache of doing C-sections incorrectly. You won't have to go to the vet. You won't have to pay $100 a test. There's lots of good reasons to go get that machine. And that is the machine that I sell. I'm a distributor for it, Wonderful Fine Care, and you will find that on My Breeder Supply. Love this machine. If you're going to do that, you did well. You will really like the results, and you'll end up with bigger litters over it. Okay, so what else can you do? Well, you can go to the vet, and the vet can draw some blood and then do maybe an in-house progesterone test, or more likely send it off and get the results the next day. So is that okay? Absolutely, it's fine. But you need to be aware of, if you're getting close to the point that you need to be breeding a dog and you have to wait a day for results, that can really trip you up. So you've got to ask the questions, can I get results the same day? What time will I get the results by? And what's it going to cost me? So I think those are all important things. And by the way, on the cost side of this, also be aware of the fact that if you go to a vet to get a progesterone test, they may want to stick you with a health test too, or a general well-being test of the dog, or some kind of a vet visit, and they might strap another 50 to 100 bucks onto what the cost is going to be. So I'm not saying that that's not wanted. I'm just saying you need to make sure that you know it's going to happen. So after they said, oh yeah, the progesterone test $80, and then they give you a bill for something close to 200 bucks, you're not upset by that, you realize. Because I know how I am. I'm the biggest biker in the world. I want to know what it's going to cost me up front, and I ask those questions. All right. So we have a progesterone test done. What the heck does it mean? So here is, in the red line, is the progesterone levels of a typical dog. And this starts with day 0. This is the day that we have seen red blood on the ground. Red blood. So it's either in the bedding, it's on, if you've got panties on her, it's in the panties, or you see spots on the ground. There is day 1. That's day 1. That's the marker to get this whole thing rolling, day 1. Now, if you go back before day 1, you might see swelling in her vulva, more attention from other dogs licking her, her humping on other dogs. All of those things are what I call preheat signs that something's fixing to happen. But the thing that we really care about is the first thing is to be able to get this day 0 first dry into blood. We'd like to know what the day is. All right. So what happens after that? Well, we're going to go into this in some detail in the next lecture. But basically, you want to have your first test done about day 6. About day 6 of heat. That's the time to get your first test done. That's when you're going to go to the vet, or have already ordered your progesterone machine from us, or have ordered the test kits from Target Vet. Because if you're doing a breeding with me, I'm going to ask you to get a baseline done, something around day 6. So what can we expect to happen? Well, progesterone is the thing that drives the engine. A dog that is not in heat, back here, for the last 4 months, has had a progesterone level of less than probably 0.5. Significantly less than 1 anyway. That is a dog that's not in heat. When the dog starts to show signs of blood, that is the day the whole engine starts rolling, and that takes about 5 days, typically, for the progesterone level to get above a 1. And that's that point right there, 5 or 6 days. Then it starts to go up really quickly, about 1 point a day, until we get to ovulation, which is about day 9, and we'll talk more about this. It continues to rise, and it then really goes up high. And this high period, this stretch here, lasts for about 60 days. There's about 2 months that this dog is in, has a very high progesterone level. And it doesn't make any difference whether this dog was bred, AI'd, naturally, surgically, whatever. It makes no difference. Progesterone level goes up. So I constantly get people who'll be doing a progesterone test, and they'll call me up and say, oh, her number's still less than 1. I think I missed it. You have not missed it. If you've missed it, the level's going to be like a 30, 40, or 50, or 60 or something. So regardless of whether the dog was bred or not, progesterone level goes up. And it stays high, and that's what keeps the uterus intact, whether there's a pregnancy going on or not. This progesterone goes high, and then it does a precipitous drop around day 70 from initial signs of heat, or about 61 days from when you did an AI. It drops dramatically, and then either there's a couple of things that can happen here. Either, we whelp puppies, we have a whelp, or there is no puppies and there's no whelp, and then the whole thing dies down again until we're ready for the next cycle. And the next cycle, we're going to talk about all of that in lecture 5. So I want to get the point across. The whole point of today's discussion is progesterone levels. The whole thing is driven by progesterone levels. And if you want to be successful consistently in having puppies and having big litters, you need to know what the progesterone level is. Those of you who are not doing progesterone levels and have your own stud dogs, you may be breeding multiple times, and that generally works okay, but it's certainly not as good as having a progesterone level. And we'll talk more about why that's so important when we get to the next video. But the point here is, get a progesterone test done ahead of time, know where you're going to go, know what it's going to cost, know when you'll get the results. And the last thing about this, before we just terminate this particular lecture, is you've got to know what it's read in. In America, we typically read in nanograms per milliliter. That is what we're used to seeing. If you're in Europe, then it tends to be in nanograms per mole. And this reading here is, you take this reading and turn it into this reading, you have to multiply by 3.18. So if somebody comes back and gives you a really high reading, the first thing I say is, hey, what is this measured in? Because it may be measured in nanograms per milliliter. If you're breeding a dog on 15 here, you're breeding a dog on about a 47 here. So it's very important that you know what units it's being measured in. The other thing is we'd like to know what kind of a machine it is that has been doing the reading. So most of the machines, and probably all of the lab-based machines, are an IDEX machine. IDEX. The Wandofo that I sell also reads in the same way that an IDEX does. The one to watch out for is Mini Vitus. If your results have been given from a Mini Vitus machine, be aware of the fact that the numbers are substantially higher on a Mini Vitus than they are on an IDEX machine. That will trip you up. So if I'm going to get involved in a breeding, I'm going to ask you what kind of machine it was run on, and specifically, was it a Mini Vitus? Because if it's a Mini Vitus, we're taking those numbers and we're going to divide them by about 2 to a 3. So you can really get messed up. You don't know about that. Okay, so I think that's the end of that one. Look, if you like what we're talking about, then go check us out at My Breeder Supply. There's some great products there. We have wonderful stud dogs. They're all available for you to look at lovemypups.com. And what we'd like you to do is subscribe to us, because it does take time and effort to put these videos together. Hopefully they're useful to you, and if they are, thumbs up, give us a subscribe to us. Next video coming up.